Hello, everybody. So welcome to our session today. I can see that we've got participants from all over the world that are just joining us. So thank you so much for taking the time. Today we're going to be hearing a little bit more about a brand new project of work called TIDAL N+. And I shall leave the team just to explain a little bit more detail about this and what it's about. So just for a little bit of an overview for you today, from an accessibility point of view, we do have closed captions available. So please do turn on your closed captions should you want to view them. We ask for all the questions to come through the Q&A box. That will enable the panel to respond throughout the session today, and also for you all to be able to see the responses. And it also means that we won't have screen readers interrupting the session via the chat box. So we'll try and keep any conversations on the chat to a minimum, and key links, etc., so that you have those available should you want them. The session itself will be recorded and we'll make it available after the event, so that if you are joining from overseas or different time zones, or if you just want to catch up later, it will be available for you. So coming up today, we're going to be hearing from Kathy Holloway and the rest of the TIDAL N+ team, and we'll also be hearing from some fantastic guests that we have joining us today. So we have Wendy, Paul, Susie and Chapel, who I will leave to introduce themselves in their individual sections, and then we're going to have an opportunity for some Q&A. So if you think of anything you'd like to know a little bit more about, or any particular questions on the programme, or how to get involved, do pop it in that Q&A box throughout the session, and we'll come back to those towards the end. So I'm now going to hand across to my colleague Kathy to introduce herself and just give you a little bit more of an overview about the network and what we've been doing.
Thanks, Louise, and thank you everybody for taking time out of your day to join the launch of TIDAL. It would have been nice to have been able to do this in person, and we hope in future months to be able to hold some in-person events and some hybrid events and some online events. And the idea of doing all of these events is so that we can create a transdisciplinary network capable of generating novel design, engineering and technological advances that will empower disabled older people and carers to accessible and local solutions. So that's the first aim of our grant, is for you guys and us to begin to network better so that we can advance the state of the art, so that ultimately we can support users in their communities. We keep talking about step change. Lots of people talk about a step change in things, but we really do want to look at how we move the needle on the viability and affordability of inclusive and empowering assistive living devices, things that can help level the playing field socially and economically for disabled people. You'll know from our work in the Global Disability Innovation Hub that we've been doing a lot of work in low and middle income countries, and sometimes people can focus in that area of where the need is greatest. 80% of people don't have access there. However, in the UK, every person who has a disability will know that there are extreme struggles, both within our NHS and within our social and welfare systems, that we believe technology that's co-designed can help overcome. So we'll be initiating advances, well, we won't, we'll be initiating a network. You guys will be applying for some money and hopefully getting some industry secondments and joining in some activities that help advance design, data science and manufacturing, whilst also continually strengthening the knowledge base of research translation. And that loops back to our big sort of hypothesis that we put into the grant, which is that whilst there's lots of brilliant stuff happening across the UK, across Europe, across the world in assistive technology development, oftentimes that's not getting to market. And so as part of the network, we're very keen on helping connect people to regulators, to manufacturers, to the NHS, to clinical partners, to make sure that you have what you need to have a grant that's not only brilliant in terms of research, but brilliant in terms of impact. Next slide, please, Louise, thank you. And so as part of that, we want to give something back to you. So we're starting to map the innovation landscape across the UK. A lot of that will happen after what's called the Research Excellence Framework in the UK. Results are available, and we'll go back through those and produce reports on that, as well as doing some landscaping work in machine learning, artificial intelligence and advanced manufacturing. We're going to hopefully just develop and sustain this network, and we can only do that with you. So we really are, this is a starting point of a conversation, hopefully. And there'll be some initial small research projects. They're not going to be huge, you know, 50, 60,000 pounds, but hopefully that will be enough to prove the concept, to go back to EPSRC and other funders to get larger grants. And we will be supporting you as any way we can to grow your idea. And through GDI Hub in particular, but also through things like at Salford and at Strathclyde, we have the CDT in prosthetics and orthotics, just as one example. We're looking to advance and disseminate the results as widely as possible. So hopefully giving you a large platform to shout about your research. And this is the work plan. You'll see there's some little icons. The WS stands for Work Stream 1. And the work plan just basically goes through year by year, explaining how we will have some bits of work on regulation post-Brexit. That's our first bit of kind of work into the innovation ecosystem. Then a REF 21 impact case study. Then a research topic to be decided by you. What would you like us to do? Then towards year 3, we'll look at future sustainable TIDAL research, and then we'll have a different research project for research 5. The work stream 2 is all about this launch event, then quarterly newsletters, networks, annual symposiums, doctoral colloquiums, can't say the word. Those things are, you know, can be moved a little bit. So if there's things that you think are needed, then if you get in contact with us, we will fit the money for the need of the network. Work stream 3 looks at the different domains that we're looking to. Sorry, can everyone else hear me? Somebody else can't hear me. Is it just you? I'll keep going unless I hear that somebody else can't hear me too. There's responsible engineering, design and digital manufacturing systems, physical devices, then looking at sensors and data science for communication aids, and then a 4th cluster, which again is to be decided by you guys. And finally, we've got a learning hub launch. So we'll be launching a hub of learning materials and doing some live events like these to try and help get us all working together. So that's our plan. Like I say, it was our plan when we wrote it, so you can help us change it as well. And then finally, before I hand over so that you get to meet the brilliant team that has helped pull this together, we wanted to just make sure you had these dates in your diary early on. So the first theme for funding is around responsible engineering, and we'll be launching a sort of call around that in February. We'll then be launching an industry placements scheme in March, and in May we'll have our first GDI Hub live event, which will hopefully have the people who have got the responsible engineering funding as long with the industry placement talking to you and helping you understand what's possible within the network. How to get involved, there's loads of ways to get involved. There'll be a website and other things which I believe somebody is about to put in the chat as I said that. So I'll move on to the team. So I'll hand over in this order. Over to you, Los.
Thank you. Can people hear me? Okay. Thank you very much, Kathy, for that great overview of the project. So just to say a few words about me, I'm Professor in Rehabilitation Technologies within the School of Health and Society at the University of Salford. For those outside the UK, Salford is in Greater Manchester, Twin City of Manchester, famous for a number of things, including where Marx and Engels collaborated on the Communist Manifesto many years ago. I originally studied mechanical engineering. I moved my research into the rehabilitation engineering field in the 1990s. So my focus is on the design of devices and tools for their evaluation. And the devices I've been focusing largely on are prostheses and functional electrical stimulation systems for people with stroke. Particularly interested in using current digital tools to better understand when and why people use their tools in their devices in the real world, or not use their devices in the real world, and using that to inform future designs. I've also most recently been leading an EPSRC funded Global Challenges project focused on the development of purely mechanical upper limb prostheses suitable for low resource settings, and I'm working on that with Kathy and other colleagues in the UK, Jordan and Uganda. My role in this project is to work with the other members of the team on the responsible engineering part of the work, on the sensors and data science part of the work. And on a final note, really, I'm very interested to see how the network will help to facilitate translation. As somebody who's been in the field for some time, I have had 1 or 2 successes, but I've had a lot of failures where good research, I think, has not translated into good products. And I'm very much looking forward to working with the rest of you on the translation aspect. And so with that, I'll hand over to whoever is next. Richard, I think.
Over to Richard.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Los. Hello, everybody. My name's Richard Bibb. I'm Professor of Design and, sorry, can you see me?
Yeah, we can see you, Richard.
Sorry, I wasn't sure. So, yeah, so I'm Professor of Medical Applications of Design at the School of Design and Creative Arts at Loughborough University. I'm based on the Loughborough campus, which is in Leicestershire in the East Midlands, for those of you not familiar with the UK. My role in this project will be to contribute to the areas looking at digital design and digital manufacturing systems, particularly with my interests and my experience in the design of custom fitting and customized medical devices, prostheses, and orthotics. I'll hand over to Mikko.
While we go, Mikko's coming.
Yes. Now that I managed to unmute and turn on the video, thank you, Richard, very much. So my name is Professor Mikko Correa. I'm a professor of design innovation. I also come from Loughborough University, but I come from the London campus, which is, we are practically neighbors with the GDIH hub in the Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park. I am not a technologist. I'm a designer originally, and I'm also a person with a long history of management and enterprise, livelihoods, and human development. So my sort of key role would be to work in the area of responsible engineering and bringing the innovations from the ideas into real world solutions out there. My background is quite non-technological, shall we say, because I have been working a lot with livelihoods, with organizations like the Red Cross or World Bank, different development projects all around the world. Entrepreneurship is very close to my heart, and we have been looking at that in Brazil and southernmost Africa in the SADC countries, also East Africa and parts of Asia. Social innovation plays in when we are looking at assisted technologies in very many different ways. It is a whole web of relationships that need addressing, and the human factor is of particular interest. And how do people play into the system, and how we can actually manage things into fruitful conditions. Yeah, that's me, and I would be handing over to Ariane.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Mikko, for handing over to me. Welcome all to this, I think, very exciting network. I'm Arjan Buys. I'm a reader in biomedical engineering at the University of Strathclyde, and I'm an honorary professor at the University of Rwanda. I'm a biomedical engineer by training, but I'm also a P&O clinician. I was trained as a prosthetic orthotist in the early 80s and have been traveling all over the world to fulfill my expertise in the different countries. In my working life, currently, I lead a multidisciplinary research group that is specializing in the development and delivery of next generation assistive and adaptive rehabilitation technologies. And then, of course, we talk about prosthetics, orthotics, soft robotics, wheelchairs, etc., etc. I personally have a strong interest in co-creation and collaborative cross-disciplinary research, and then, of course, especially in the field of real-world evaluation of assistive technologies. My role on this network is a little bit dual, both on the engineering side, but in this network, I am the clinical liaison for the network. Thank you very much, Kathy, and all.
Thank you. And I should mention, I realise I forgot to mention, obviously this is funded by UKRI EPSRC, so thank you very much for the money. and thank you to the team. I would also just like to ask Claire to introduce herself, who seemed to have left herself off the slides, but I'm going to force her. Hello. Claire?
Hi there. So I'm the network coordinator for the TIDAL Network Plus. So I'll be supporting the academic team and also managing all the projects that you're going to be hearing about in this session. And I'll probably get to know a few of you really quite well over the next 2 or 3 years if we're working closely with you. So I'll look forward to that.
Thank you. Perfect. And now my job is simply to hand over to Wendy to give some opening remarks. Wendy kindly agreed to be the chair of our steering committee, which we will launch very soon. And so, Wendy, please.
Thank you, Kathy, and hello, everybody. I'm delighted to be here today. I'm delighted that Kathy's asked me to chair the steering group of TIDAL Network Plus, which is focused on an area really quite close to my heart. So getting assistive technology right for people to enable them to live their lives as fully as possible is something that I'm certainly passionate about. And as a medical physicist and an NHS clinical professional, it's something that I've been involved in for a number of years. So just by way of background, I currently lead a med tech cooperative. It's something called Devices for Dignity, and it's funded by the English National Institute for Health Research. And we run some technology themes, one on assistive technologies, one on rehabilitation technologies. And one of the areas that we focus on is the identification of unmet need. So what exactly is the problem? Who has the problem and why? What's the root cause? And what would be the impact if that problem were to be addressed? The way in which the TIDAL network is being set up and its multidisciplinarity means that I think it's going to be really well placed to address these issues and to really drive the understanding of current problems with AT provision, and to develop communities to co-create solutions which can potentially transform the landscape for users, improving accessibility and equity. Our NHS long-term plan in England commits us to a more concerted and systematic approach to health inequalities, better service integration, and digitally enabled person-centred care. And TIDAL to me is the sort of AT version of our NHS long-term plan with added R&D components. So I'm really excited to be part of its development and to help to try and shape its future impact. There are so many facets of AT development that are ripe for this network to explore, not just the science and engineering, but also the digital, behavioural, organisational, social and regulatory aspects. But of course, we mustn't forget that route to market and the hurdles that can get in the way. This is a complex regulatory area with unclear boundaries. And novel AI, data-driven developments and other developments are presenting new challenges for both developers and for regulators. We absolutely need whole systems thinking with the right collaborations to get the technology effectively to those that need it in a sustainable way. And we need users right at the centre of our processes with patient and public involvement. I think Brexit has really moved the dial on regulation for us. And I think that the workshops that are planned are an opportunity to understand the challenges and discuss future approaches and how we embed those at an early stage of our work. So what would it take, for example, to create the best and most effective safety systems for AT users to underpin any future transformation? I genuinely believe this is absolutely the right time for this programme. The need for AT is ever growing, and we owe it to our patients to try and give them the technology which enables the best quality of life. So please do stay engaged with this network. You can make all the difference to its success. So thank you, look forward to the rest of the session, and I'll hand back now to Kathy.
Thank you, Wendy, and thank you for taking time out for what I know is a busy clinical day to be with us today. We're greatly appreciative. So we're going to move on. Please do, if you've got questions for Wendy or anybody else, use the Q&A function. Try not to use the chat if you can, because it reads out the chat to screen readers, and they'll just get the chat as well as people speaking. So the Q&A function is preferred. And we've asked 3 people from across our partners to come and speak today. The first is Paul from 3D Life Prints, and you might see a theme a little bit on physical assistive technology maybe in the 3 speakers. That wasn't by design, and we will have future sessions more on things like communications and AI. But for today, we wanted an entrepreneurial voice, we wanted a user and funding voice, and then we also wanted a global voice. So I'd like to hand over to Paul to give his reflections on the challenges of entrepreneurship. And thank you very much, Paul, for joining us.
Just a quick one. I think Paul's had a few. Yeah, he's had a few problems with connecting, so we'll try and get Paul to return later on.
Paul's on the road somewhere. Is Paul here? No. Okay, we shall move on. We shall reorder. Next slide, please. Susie, are you ready?
Can I hear Paul in the background?
That's what I keep thinking. I can hear Paul in the background. Paul, do you want to try one more time?
Yeah, can everyone hear me at all?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
No.
It's quite a bad connection, Paul. You're dropping out. Shall we connect with Susie first, and then we'll come back to you, see if you can connect to a slightly stronger signal?
Yep.
And with that, Susie, let me introduce Susie Rogers, MBE, for some experiences and reflection on the personal side of assistive tech.
Yeah, thanks, Kathy. Hopefully Paul can come after me then. Yeah, just a big thank you to Kathy and the team for inviting me to talk to you today about assistive technology at this exciting launch of TIDAL N+. So for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Susie Rogers. I work currently as a disability inclusion technical advisor on global health, currently on secondment to the UK's Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office. I'm also a former Paralympic swimmer. I competed in 2 games, London and Rio. And I'm here today to talk to you about what assistive technology means to me, both personally, focusing on the challenges and the importance of better human functioning, but also professionally through the work I do on the global agenda of inclusive health. I think, as we all know, I'm preaching to the converted here, but AT does have the power and ability to transform lives, and I do know this firsthand. I'll describe the slides to you for those of you who might not be able to see, but basically there's a slide in front with 3 images, 3 photos on there. And I'll describe them each bit by bit. So the first one on the far left is a picture of me as a somewhat chubby and cute red-faced baby, and I'm sitting on my mum's lap. I was born in the 1980s. I was born missing the lower part of my left leg. I have a through knee amputation, and with missing the lower part of my left arm, which you can probably see in the picture. I'm a below elbow amputee as well. And I also have a malformation of my right leg and foot. This was all due to complications in the womb. No one's really particularly 100% sure how it happened, but there you go. And it was all prior to birth. I think when I was born, possibly, well, my parents certainly didn't know that there was anything wrong with me. Nothing was picked up in any of the scans. But my mum and dad are quite strong individuals. And from the word go, my mum said that she basically took it upon herself to say that I was no different to anybody else and that I was everyone's equal. But I imagine that behind the scenes, it must have been quite a shock and quite daunting for her to realize that she had a child that might face barriers in her life. And she later disclosed to me that all she wanted was for me to lead an independent life where I didn't need to rely on anyone else and I could live a life of my own choice. The second picture in the middle is probably going to be quite interesting to all the engineers on the line. It's a picture of my first prosthetic arm, so it's a little arm with a broken finger. It's actually made by the NHS, so I'm very fortunate that I live in the UK and I have access to the free healthcare system. And the reason it has a broken finger is because I used to throw it off at people out the pram, not at people, obviously, I wasn't trying to take them out, but I just had a habit of getting rid of it because I didn't see the functional need for wearing the arm. I found it got in my way. But actually, when I was sort of about 3 years old, I remember looking at other children playing on playground equipment, and they were using two hands. And I remember saying to my mum, "Mummy, I want to be able to play like those children." And so she said, "Well, you need to get your arm out the toy box and actually wear it rather than throwing it in the toy box." So that was the beginning of me wearing the arm and seeing the functioning value of wearing it. In the same image, there's actually a picture of a prosthetic leg, which you probably might think was made in the hospital, but in fact was made by my father. He's a chemical engineer. And when I went to the hospital at the age of 3, the doctors said to me that they didn't want to make me a leg that bent, that was able to bend, because they thought for health and safety reasons that I would fall over and it would be too dangerous. So they would only make me a leg that was straight and wouldn't bend. And so my dad decided to prove them wrong, and he went home, and I can tell you what this is made out of. He found parts of an old briefcase, an old leather briefcase, and made the socket at the top. The knee was made out of aluminium sheet that he bent round and secured into the leg. And he used the elastic from a Kilner jar at the front to cause that bending and spring back action to cause the bend in the knee. The calf is made out of teak that's been carved. There's an ankle that's flexible, and it's made out of a Mini Cooper car exhaust rubber. And then the foot, he basically made out of wood, and it's carved by himself. So he put this leg on me and made me run in front of the doctors to prove a point. And they subsequently agreed to make me a leg that would bend, because it proved that they were wrong. And it wasn't unsafe. So the reason I'm showing this is because it really does represent what is possible when you innovate and think creatively and outside of the box, not just using, anything new necessarily. You can actually recycle and reuse old products and come up with innovative solutions to real life problems. So hopefully this will be what you'll all be doing through TIDAL N+ in the next few years. The final photo shows me as a child on the left-hand side, walking on the beach, wearing a swimsuit. It's my favorite place to be, by the water. And then the picture next to it is me walking away from the camera, and that's me as an adult trying on a new prosthetic leg alignment. It just really does demonstrate that the life of an AT user is constant. You're always going back to the hospital. You're always going back for tweaks and changes. And I still encounter problems and challenges such as thermal control in sockets, imperfect socket design, rubbing, you name it. There's a load of problems that need to be solved. And these definitely affect my ability to lead a comfortable life of my choice. Can you move to the next slide, please? So the next 3 photos just really show my, desire to do what everyone else does, but and to be their equal. On the left side, there's a picture of me attempting to try skiing. I have to say it didn't go very well. I don't think I'll be doing that again, because I need to protect the only functioning leg that I have. But it was an interesting thing to do, and I certainly enjoyed trying it. The second photo is a picture of me standing up to my knees in the sea and holding my hands up in the air, looking quite happy. And it really does illustrate the point of transformation and the life-changing power of assistive technology. You may think that as a Paralympic swimmer, I would have had a leg that could be fully submersible, a bending leg that could fully submerse in water, but I didn't actually have one. I used to wear my standard prosthetic, which I couldn't get wet because it would affect the knee joint and it could cause rusting. And I remember after the Rio 2016 Paralympic Games, I spotted a girl on social media based in Brazil and she was walking out into the ocean on a leg that fully bent, and she was fully submerging her prosthetic leg. So I took this picture into the hospital and I asked for something similar to do the same thing. And so they made me a fully submersible wet leg, I call it, something I would have loved to have had as a child in that photo you saw earlier. And it was made for me in 2018, so very recently. And it was that summer that I took my first steps ever in my whole life, upright into the sea. And it really is almost a feeling of being reborn, because to be able to walk out into the water, to be able to be upright, to fully walk up to my neck when I'm still standing upright, rather than having to go in on my knees, which often resulted in me hurting myself, or having someone carry me into the water. It was just incredibly empowering. And the last photo, it shows a photo of me training at the London Aquatic Centre for the London 2012 Paralympic Games. It was my first Paralympic Games, and I had a great experience there. I won 3 bronze medals and went on to Rio 2016, 4 years later, to win a gold and 2 bronze. And being a Paralympic athlete very much became my job for a number of years, and is obviously very linked to assistive technology work, of course. I don't actually use assistive technology when I'm swimming. I just use my body as it is. I don't need any enhancement of my functioning because it's just simply what I need on land. Can we move to the next slide, please? So the personal just outlines how technology can improve functioning if you're aware of it and if you know that it's available, such as, for example, with the wet leg, and also if you understand how it works. But I'm speaking today from a position of relative privilege. What about those people who don't know or don't have access to appropriate assistive technology? I'm passionate about amplifying these voices and bringing them forward in the work I do in the FCDO and beyond. My work does currently focus on health system strengthening, but assistive technology is part of that. And if I take a few lines from the FCDO, they are a founding partner of AT Scale and continue to work in partnership on this, as well as through the AT 2030 programme to tackle barriers and to reach 500 million people with assistive technology by 2030. But I'm not here to represent the FCDO necessarily today, more that I'm aware of the great challenges that are existing in this space. And before I hand over to the next speaker, particularly Chapal, who I know has a lot more of an expertise on this area, just wanted to raise a few points. From the international perspective, the awareness is there, but the challenge is that there's a lack of investment, where there may be concerns over the cost of assistive technology or what the return on investment is. Another aspect is the lack of political institutional will to create widespread availability of assistive technology. This is very much a global problem with global markets, where there are funding constraints, prohibitive price points from limited supply, and disorganized and fragmented markets that do not facilitate access to quality and appropriate assistive technology, such as in low and middle income countries. There's also a lack of awareness more generally in users and service providers on the need for and the importance of AT and issues with supply and demand. Investment is needed to continue to support and validate new assistive technology ideas, such as through TIDAL N+. These can help design context relevant and affordable products, test and develop ideas, and reach those who need it the most, taking ideas to scale. A multi-stakeholder approach has been mentioned, and it is needed with support from government, donors, multilaterals, and the private sector, as well as academic institutions, startups, and with input from end users like myself, of course. And we do know that assistive technology investment does offer a return on investment. So before I finish and hand over, I'll come back to the personal. I know that AT and devices can enhance and improve function, not just for people with disabilities like myself, but for older people and many others. I'm really excited to follow the work of TIDAL N+ and support, if I can, with a strong emphasis to you all on the importance of the T in TIDAL for transformative, the opportunity to transform lives like my own and to reduce the gap between research and the daily reality of users to lead independent lives. Thanks a lot, and I'll finish there. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Susie, for sharing all of those great experiences. I think it might just work well to move straight on to Chapal, because there's a good link there, and then we can come back to Paul if he's managed to join. Chapal.
Thank you. And I don't think I have to say anything because Wendy said everything what I had to say, and so has Susie. And I do not know why I always get chance to speak after Susie. Next time I'll ensure I speak before her so that I don't have to face this extra challenge. The people who do not know me, I come from India. I am in the rehab sector for more than 40 years, working on the rehabilitation. Once upon a time, started career as a prosthetist. I was once upon a time student of Aryan, so I have a long history. And then last 20 years, I'm working in the World Health Organization. And last innings of my life, I have dedicated completely on promoting, improving access to assistive technology. Luis, anyone will share my slide? Yeah. So when we talk about assistive technology, I feel that still people have not understood the length and breadth of this assistive technology. Forget the Z-axis and others. The people have seen it very limited number of products for very limited number of people. Whereas this assistive technology market is more than $1 trillion market. And we are working on the global report, which will be launched in May, and you will see what's the potential actually we are losing by not investing in assistive technology sector. I do not know any other sector which has such a good economic and societal value like assistive technology. Can I have next slide, please? So I didn't discuss this with either Wendy or Susie, but the issues they said is exactly the same, and it is very obvious if you see the recent WIPO publication of technology trends on assistive technology. The awareness is very poor about assistive technology. Most people do not know what it is. Even the potential users do not know what it is. So then, though there's a huge need, but need has not transformed into a demand. And as there is no demand, the supply is again further less. So the awareness, another problem with the assistive technology, when I took over this sector, the ISO definition itself, 9999, they label these products only for persons with disabilities. And as a result, people look at only wheelchair, hearing aids, and cane or walker or prosthesis at the most, but they have not seen and they have excluded millions of people who could benefit out of assistive technology. So my first job was to take the assistive technology out from the very narrow disability focused area to a more public health or the market approach of the assistive technology. And then, as you know, many disabilities quite stigmatized sector. The stigma, prejudice goes hand in hand with the disability. And as assistive technology was identified as a product for disabled, so even assistive technology got stigmatized. I know many of my friends who could benefit out of assistive products, but they don't use it because they don't want to see themselves as disabled. The problem was quite similar when in early days, people used to wear glasses. They didn't want to use glasses because they don't want to look old or looks like a teacher. So there's an awareness. Then there's a fragmentation. The hearing sector doesn't talk to mobility sector doesn't talk to the communication sector. So the sector is small, but within the small sector, there's a fragmentation. And the fragmentation also in the market, if you look at this, that there are high-end products for high-end markets and charity for the low-end markets of the poor countries. There's no competition in this area, so the products are very overpriced. And the pricing is a big issue, why the access to assistive technology is so a minimum. And whenever I talk about pricing, people get nervous. And we have a lot to learn from the pharma sector, or the especially medicine and vaccine sector. People were not getting the medicine. You just imagine the HIV/AIDS course when it's began and what it is now. So if you can do a huge market shaping in the pharma world, medicines, vaccines, why you cannot do it in the assistive technology? Any assistive products you name, you will see that 5 to 10 companies have monopolized the market, and they set the price, they set the quality, they set the standards, they set the regulators. So the people are not getting the benefit. So we have to open the market, and there are a lot of innovations goes on, a lot of products comes out, prototypes I see from universities comes out, good research lab comes out, but only 18% gets commercialized. So 82% is the West. So we have to really understand why this huge gap, why this valley of depth is so deep that 82% resources get lost in between. Then IP and transfer of technology. Again, especially this problem I see more in the high-income countries, these products mostly clubbed under medical technology. So they follow the regulations, regulatory system of the medical products like medicines or surgical products. But I do not understand in JAWS or screen reader or many software or many assistive products, what's the medical in it, but that's how it gets controlled. And as a result, the price of the products gets, again, I know some country develop a product and the prototype to get the product from prototype to market, it takes to 7 to 8 years. In this COVID area, if the vaccine can be produced in such a shorter time, why assistive products cannot be? So we have to think it in a much bigger perspective. And I also look, you have to invest. Without investment, without political support, we cannot really push the sector well. Even if you do, you come with a unique solutions, best possible solution, but there will be no market and there will be no offtake. And we also have to look at the financing and insurance, how we finance this. What's the role of the health insurance in reimbursing these products? And the last thing what I'll say is that look at the global solution. The problem is I fail to make my friends of the high-income countries to understand the solution is not only in your country. Solution is only in the global solution. If we can change the global thinking, global approach, everybody will benefit. And so look beyond your own territory, own country, own friends, and look for a global solution. Because I know that if we all collaborate, we can ensure the products what is available now at the price, we can make it available at the 1/10 of the price, if not more. So that's where the global solution is needed. And the problem is also people think WHO is only for the poor countries. So many high-income countries even don't want to touch us. Sometimes I feel like that kind of feelings I get. But we have a solution for everybody. Even if we can make the hearing aids or prostheses cheaper, affordable, even NHS will benefit. But NHS and us and others have to work together to make sure that we have a global solution which benefits everybody. Next. So we working with UNICEF, and thanks to 80-20-30 and 80 scale, we'll be launching the first ever global report on assistive technology in the week of 9th or 16th May of 2022. I like the transform and innovate, but without investment, it will have a very little future. So we have to invest. And I also do not want to say that data and what kind of information we are having now. You will see the future will blur the division between disabled and non-disabled, especially in terms of access to assistive technology. So as accessible, assistive, ambient living, rehabilitation, and even mainstream technology, there will be less division or box siloism in this kind of a different technology world. Future will be all about aging, digital and assistive technology and care. So time to invest now before it becomes too late. And I strongly believe the sheer need will change the IT sector. Nobody can keep it under the carpet for a long time, or those 5 companies will monopolize the world of the AT. And solution to us is in global thinking and global application, beyond business as usual or within the 4 walls. Let's act and act together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Japal, and thank you everybody. I think we're still struggling to get Paul. He's on the road today. He was always going to be on the road. We thought the internet connection earlier was going to be stable enough, but unfortunately it doesn't look that way. So so what I'm going to do is ask Paul. We've had videos from other people, like Claude has kindly given us one from the ICRC, and from the ACE Centre we have some videos from each of the wider partners. So I'll ask Paul to record his talk, and it will go up on the website in the coming weeks and over social media for you to catch up on. But now I think it would be nice to open it up to some questions from you guys. Please try and use the Q&A. Ben has just kindly kicked us off. And I'll ask the co-investigators I'll come to, we'll each take one to help. So Ben's just asked about the maturity of projects. I'll quickly answer that, and then I'll maybe hand over to Richard to emphasize some examples from networks he's been involved with before, the types of things that have been funded. But it's very much early stage research. So if you're familiar with technology readiness levels, we're looking at 2 3s. So just beyond that initial idea, so it might be fundamental new material science that's being applied, fundamental new advances in machine learning or in digital manufacturing systems. But the impact should be for disabled and older people. As Japal said, the future is aging. I feel like I'm getting older, so that's okay, it can be for me. So it will be things like that, but in around the sort of 60K mark. So things where you have a researcher that's able to do a few months of work to prove enough to allow you to apply for much bigger funding. Richard, would you like to emphasize or expand on that? Yeah,
essentially we're funded by EPSRC, and the kind of projects we'll be funding would be the kind of remit that EPSRC would normally fund. So we're talking about low TRL, TRL 1, 2, 3, for those of you familiar with technology readiness levels, but certainly things that are at a research stage rather than at a commercialization or an implementation stage. So we're looking for research projects that will facilitate a transformation, so something that's a step change. So we're not looking for incremental product development projects which might be better served by, for example, Innovate UK funding or other sorts of commercial funding, but fundamentally research-driven ideas that will then enable a shift or a change, a step change in the design of a particular device or service. I hope that helps, but of course you can always contact the network with remit queries and we can respond to those before you apply to our calls.
Can I jump in here, Richard? I think it's very important that that it is made clear that the research projects have an a core multidisciplinary thread to it. So we are thinking about looking at projects where there is absolutely an essential stakeholder involvement, because that's the whole point, one of the points of this network. So there should be industry involved, there should be stakeholders involved, the service provision people from an audio point of view, from a visual point of view, and of course P&O clinicians too. So it should be focused on a multidisciplinary co-creation based platform.
Thank you for that. There's a follow-on question. Thank you, Aaron, for that clear steer for co-development and interdisciplinary teams. Ben's also asking who can apply. The standard EPSRC rules apply, so we can give money to people who are eligible for EPSRC funding. That does include early career researchers. So you don't necessarily need a permanent position at your university. You need to speak to your university about that, but we should be able to fund you as a co-PI or even a PI within that remit. In terms of people that are not in the UK, generally speaking, we're not able to fund anybody that's in a high-income country that has their own funding bodies. There is a remit through some of the Global Challenge research funds that we can work with people in low and middle-income countries, but it's not the core aim of this research. So it would need to fundamentally advance the engineering and physical science remit, which is helping disabled and older people. And if there's a GCRF component, that's okay. If that helps, that helps it. But we don't expect there to be an awful lot of that. But we do hope that through other programs like the 80-20-30 and others, we might be able to partner on some things. You never know. Richard, would you like to come in there? You look like you might. And then I'm going to come to you, Los, for the next question.
Yeah, about that. Yeah, so again, I think I think Kathy's covered it really. So yeah, if you're eligible for EPSRC funding, you're eligible to apply for our funding. Like I said, with the distinction that Kathy's made, that if you're a postdoctoral research assistant with a term of employment that covers the period that you're applying for, then you could be eligible to apply. Was there anything you wanted specifically to address further, Kathy?
No, sorry, Rich, I just thought you were leaning in. I misread you.
I was thinking more about the next question from Andy Kerr.
All right, I was going to come to Los for that, but you go, and then Los might want to chime in. Yeah. So
Andy raises a good point about the differences or similarities or overlaps between rehabilitation and assistive technology. I'm not going to attempt to give the definitive definitions of those two things, but it's quite right. There are overlaps and similarities between those things. But I will draw your attention to the fact, excuse me, there is another EPSRC Healthcare Technologies Networks Plus, which will launch imminently, which is specifically looking at rehabilitation. And this network and that network will liaise very closely with each other, and where it's relevant and appropriate to do so, we will cross-refer and stay in close contact. So there will be opportunities from that Network Plus as well as this one. So depending on what you've got in mind and the remit of the work you're looking at, you could come to this network if you feel it's predominantly a assistive technology. But if something is specifically rehabilitation, there is another Networks Plus that's coming up.
Thanks, Richard. Los or Aaron, is there anything else you'd like to say on the Los first?
Just to say that I don't think we're going to be too hidebound by the specific definitions of rehabilitation technologies versus assistive technologies, and I would just suggest that people keep an eye out for the calls, and within the call we may have a particular focus. I guess that might be the way forward.
Yeah.
Basically we're looking for good projects, and if a team can convince us that it will fit in this network, we are open for discussion.
Brilliant. And the next question is from Dr. Joe Gooding, who asks, will this network link with initiatives like Zinc VC? I think I know Zinc VC, and this is a step change in research impact and commercialization, a great model, but struggling with embracing the sector. So Miko, I might come to you for more words on entrepreneurship and how we might link with innovation. But the truth is that we can't fund things that will be ready to go into Zinc. They would need a little bit more, but what we would hope is that we would be very willing to do co-branded activities with you to think about exposing the people who are doing our research to the Zinc model, maybe bringing you into a workshop with researchers in the space so they can understand. So I think we would be open to all those kinds of ideas, Miko. Would you agree? You're muted, Miko, by the way.
There we are, unmute. Yeah, I think it was very, very interesting indeed to hear Chapal talk about the challenges of commercializing and you know, challenges of joint challenges of affordability and accessibility, which are related to the wider sort of ecosystem around the assisted technologies. I think the question is not about the money in this world. There's a lot of it around. There are a lot of resources around. The question is how to access it and how to lower the threshold in terms of going into new ways of working with different partners. And I think this is an area where we could be of use in some ways. The innovation actually, just as much as it is technological innovation, it is connecting and contacting and making new types of arrangements between parties. And we all know that all kinds of different actors are needed in this sphere of action.
Thank you, Miko. We're changing tack slightly now to move on to a development of a back end of a dedicated platform to coordinate community network, which has outgrown open source tools. Shona, I love your question. I think it's beyond the remit of this particular group, but I would ask that you reach out to Daniel at GDI Hub, because he's working on something similar, and I'm sure he'd like to connect with you. I can connect you both after this meeting. Anybody else that wants to be involved in a dedicated platform, let us know and we'll help. But this research is very much about funding research as well as the network activities. So the next question is, I'm not going to get a job as a TV presenter anytime soon, but currently there is a digital divide among persons with disabilities, especially in low-income countries, and the question is, what is the way forward to make sure there is a digital inclusion? Thank you, Wendy. I knew you'd have to leave. Does anybody want to answer the digital inclusion one? I'm happy to, but Richard, you look like you might be.
I'll have a go, certainly. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It's a major problem. I guess what I would do, as you might expect from this network, is perhaps throw that question back at you and say, are you able to phrase this as a research challenge? And if you are able to phrase that as a research challenge, and probably one that's maybe specific to a particular situation, and then look for those opportunities to bring that back when we put our calls out. But you're absolutely right, that's part of the challenge. Some of those challenges are sort of within the research remit, if you like, and are research challenges, and others are perhaps more organizational or even political, of course. So I think, yeah, if those challenges can be phrased as research challenges, as research projects, then we'd welcome having them brought to us, and we will look to see whether they can be funded in through some of our calls.
Thanks, Richard. Miko, you put your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to comment. Thanks, Richard. That one of the things that one can always build into research project is the diffusion of knowledge, and I think this presents sort of an interesting opportunity to go across that digital divide at occasions.
Thanks, Miko. We have somebody in India who works at the Assistive Tech Centre in India who's talking about two specific projects and wondering if TIDAL might fund them. I'm going to say that it's quite difficult to know from just one or two sentences whether there'd be enough detail in those to assess the care gap in one of India's poorest states and develop a virtual peer training module for users of AT. Personally, I feel like they would need a little bit more EPSRC research. EPSRC research is very much about the engineering and physical sciences research, and what we would hope is that when we launch the calls, we will have workshops where you could attend, Manasa, with others, where you'd get to meet people and you could begin to put these ideas into a group so that you would be able to, maybe some of them could be incorporated into a larger research project as an example, or could be you could work alongside it. There could be a research comparison between the UK and India in a particular area, which would still allow you to do what you would like to do. Is there anybody else from the team that wants to comment further on that at this stage? Is that we move on to this is one, Chapal, this is for you now, I've decided. Professor Lee would like to know, should it must be assistive tech for disabled people? I'm going to assume that's referring to maybe why we're mentioning aging and the aging agenda and other agendas. So why would you argue that assistive tech goes beyond disabled people, Chapal?
So very
on the hot seat.
It's very means I know the challenges of honest answer of this question, but we also have to see that I'm in this business for a long time, so I can answer it well. The thing is, if you look at the disability statistics around the world, you will find the disability statistics are from 1% to 25%. And it's very much related to GDP per capita. So you can see the GDP of the lower income countries, the disability statistics is 5%. Mid income, lower middle income 5 to 10, 10 to 15, 15 plus high income. So when you go to a Ministry of Health, say a low income countries, and if you say I have a solution which will benefit 1% population and 2% population, do you think anybody will listen to you? They'll say I have a TB, malaria, all these issues. Why should I bother about this 1% population? Which is unfortunate, but that's the kind of, if you want to move the public health, if you want to move the development sector, you need number, you need an impact. And this number and impact only will come when you see who else, like disabled person, need those services. So now when I go to the government, to Ministry of Health or Social Welfare, I said, look, I am talking about the 35 population, with 35% population will be remain excluded, and they'll be dependent on the carers, and the carers will become half disabled over the time. Do you want to change that scenario? Then they open the discussion. But once you have a small number, you say 2 to 5%, it doesn't make enough sense into the political or the developmental world. So the key is how your issue you can magnify, like Susie said, my job is to magnify the issue. So how you can see, because the problem, what I see always, I say always, anything good for disability, good for older people, good for everybody. So if you start from that entry point and gradually you span your scope, there will be more people will be beside you, and more people will side you. The companies who are not investing, many people, for example, I come from India and I talk to Indian industry quite often. They said, who will invest for 1% population? Because official rate is 2.8, and then visual this and fragmentation. But if you say I have a market which will benefit 40% of population, then industry will get interested. And as you know, the trick of the business, the volume. Volume only can bring the price down. Why we don't see many disabled people on the street? Because they don't have the products. Why they don't have the products? Because they can't afford it. So we have to really address the game in the other way, rather than the traditional old way of addressing the game. From a minority approach, we have to really play the game with a majority approach, an industry approach. Now I talk about the business. I talk about investing in this. You can create new jobs, new market, new export, new GDP growth. Then government listens. Doing something good for some small percentage of people, there is a very less appetite in the government or the decision makers.
Thank you, Chapal, and thank you for answering that tricky question. I'm coming on to another tricky question, which is around how can we, people with disabilities in low and middle income countries, benefit from the TIDAL Network Plus. And as I said before, through GDI Hub, we have the 80-20-30 program, which is contributing to the World Report on Assistive Technology, as Chapal said. And that 80-20-30 program is purely focused on LMICs, low and middle income countries. It's actually one of the reasons why we wanted to do TIDAL, was to sort of take the success of what we've been doing there and see how we can better apply it to the UK, to higher income settings. But even though you might think that the UK, for example, if you live in a low and middle income country, you might look to the UK and think they've got a great vaccine program, for example, they've got the National Health Service, there's no need for further advancements. My argument is that there is definitely a need for further advancements within the UK. And I'll let Susie maybe can comment on that point in a second, if you wouldn't mind, Susie, just to add some flavour to where we think there might be benefit to improving the UK. I would say that we will try and maximise all of the partnerships that we have. You heard from Lawrence, he's got another programme that's been working on upper limb prosthetics in Uganda and in Jordan, for example. There's quite a wide EPSRC portfolio that is working in low and middle income countries, and we would hope that TIDAL would be its home for engaging in collaborations that would also advance the research agenda within the UK. And finally, just to mention that what Chapal said about this being a global problem, that's also an ageing problem, that is also, I want people in the UK to realise that we're talking about global market. So that global market also includes LMICs. So the research agenda that must benefit the UK should have an export market as well. That would be better for the UK, but it can also be beneficial to LMICs. Susie, I don't know if you want to just comment on maybe the how we can still go further in the UK, and maybe from a user perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I would, to sound controversial, I mean, I know from my perspective, I mean, the UK is not getting it all right at all. I mean, you know, I'm constantly frustrated with probably the point around, you know, I think Chapal made this point where you get all of this innovation, and I'm sort of sitting there saying, well, where is it? You know, I'm not seeing it. I'm still using things that are very outdated, that haven't improved, that are still the kind of repeat issues that I've been having for the last sort of 30 years. So I think that's the challenge, is trying to get these ideas out there, but also get it to the individual. You know, and from my perspective, there's a lot of things that I'd love to improve and change around prosthetic design, orthotic design, but you know, it's the collaborative approach needed. You know, everybody getting together, having the conversations, but definitely bringing in people like the users to have those conversations, and not ignoring them, because we have that kind of real life experience. You know, and if I give the example of the wet leg, I think, you know, it is quite shocking that I wasn't even aware that I could get this product. And I bet it's been available longer than 2018, but nobody had told me. So the communication is a big part of that. You know, if you don't know what's out there and you have to go and research it all yourself and no one's telling you, that can be challenging too. So yeah, I'll stop there.
Thanks, Susie. I don't think anyone else wants to jump in there, so I'm going to go straight to Tim's got a question on which innovation stages from idea conceptions to product delivery are we funding, and how many of these stages the project include. Anybody want to jump in? Richard?
Yeah, hi Tim. I think it depends on the research question. So if there's still a solid engineering or physical sciences research question that can be addressed by research, then that could influence or be an ingredient or a contribution to any number of developmental stages, but probably more at the early stages of product development rather than the later stages, logically thinking about those things. But as long as it can be expressed as a research problem that can be is clearly within EPSRC remit, I think it doesn't specifically matter what stage of the product development process that comes in, as long as it's a solid research question. I hope that sort of makes sense.
I think it's also important that, as you saw on the program we are planning over the coming 3 years, we will organize sandpits, and in the sandpits we try to get a critical mass of people together from different disciplines. And the aim of this one is to get that we have a co-creation system where there are good research questions asked, rather than jumping in, oh, we have already a product on TRL 3 and can we bid for money. I think it's very important of this network that we create co-creation approach of good research questions, what helped not only the UK, but also the rest of the global scene.
Thanks, Aaron. We've got a specific question on innovation from hand cycling to e-wheelchairs in Tanzania. I think my comment stands from before, which is that there has to be a fundamental EPSRC question to answer here. And I think coming to maybe one of the sandpits that Aaron just mentioned and beginning to explore what that might be would be essential, because we're not set up to do sort of translational research, and this might fall under that translational research. It's quite difficult to know from a small from that sentence that's there. I can see some questions that are coming through in the chat. I think it's, yeah. You're saying in the chat, in response possibly to what I'm saying, Archie, that you're thinking about creating jobs with a platform and trying to upskill people and so on and so forth. And all of that is wonderful. I would hope that programs like 80-20-30 and others could help you and other areas, but I'm not sure that TIDAL will be looking in that area because it's not fundamental physical sciences research. And just coming on, just to skip a question, a couple of questions down, because I was reading ahead. There was a question from somebody in Maynooth University, I'm just trying to find it, and looking at the psychosocial, here it was Janet, looking at the psychosociological perspectives, that can fall into a multidisciplinary team. So we can have an interdisciplinary project that involves psychosocial, but the core of the project must be about advancing engineering and physical sciences research. It's also a bit tricky to give money in Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, or just Ireland, as I would like to say. So it would need to be a joint endeavour. There are other EPSRC schemes to allow for collaboration between the UK and Ireland, so there might be a way of joining that up and in as well, and I'm happy to chat to you about that separately. Anybody? Richard, you look like you would like to say something. Go ahead, please. Yeah, you're muted.
I was just about to type a reply and you've covered it, so thanks for that. Apologies, I have to leave now for a prior engagement, but lovely to see you all. And obviously, if there are any questions that come through that I can answer after the meeting, then please forward them to me. Thanks, everybody.
No problem, Richard. Thanks a million. So, AK, we're on to you. How can we use innovation and designs that are relevant to the needs of persons with disability in diverse environments, such as those in Africa? Los, I'm going to come to you, if that's all right. You're muted.
Yeah, just referring back to what Kathy said previously, I think we welcome engagement from people from lower and middle income countries, but it has to be in the context of partnering with UK academic partners who would be eligible for the funding through our network. So it's a case of looking at opportunities as they arise and looking for suitable partners to discuss possible research ideas with. Kathy, I don't know whether you addresses it.
No, yeah, I think that does a great, and I think that goes for anything that's a research project. We really have to advance that fundamental engineering and physical sciences remit as best we can. And there's lots of signposting on the EPSRC website about what that is, and we're also happy to help you too. It's not only that. I also was going to mention, just while I have you, Shona McDonald's come back and said, just clarifying on the platform, that it's not so much about maybe innovation, but it's more about a platform to monitor delivery on policy and generate research data. So it's and to influence and improve delivery outcomes, which I know that you and I have spoken about before, and that type of a thing, especially maybe with some sensors, could be quite interesting. So I'm going to send my written response, but maybe you could also comment further on that.
Yes, I mean, as Kathy said, over the years Kathy and I have shared an interest in trying to use sensors to understand people's use or in many cases non-use of assistive technologies. It's very difficult to get a handle on the scale of the problem in terms of whether the AT that's being designed then supplied to people is actually of value to those individuals in their everyday lives. And obviously there's a complex chain of factors that might influence that. But I think one of the ways of beginning to better understand that complexity is to start using digital tools to understand people's everyday decisions about whether to use their assistive technology or to work around using their assistive technology. And I think if we can start connecting those sort of data sets with wider data sets, wider data on sort of policy issues, I think we stand to a chance of being able to scale up the AT research domain and really properly understand what makes good AT for the user.
Thank you, Lars. So Ben's wondering about network activities. Could we elaborate on the intention for engagements between projects, whether during the funding period or beyond? Ben, I'm not sure what you mean by between projects. Are you meaning between the projects that we fund or maybe us as well as the other network clusters? I can probably speak to both. Does anybody want to jump in on either of those points? Dos, Nico, Arian, or should I go on, Los?
Well, just to say, yeah, we're very keen to work, I think, across the other network pluses. I think there's 2 or 3 other network plus funded projects in the general domain. There's one on rehabilitation robotics or assistive robotics, I think. There's one on rehabilitation technologies, and there's one on bionics. And certainly, I think the research councils are keen to see the networks working together, and we're keen to work with the other networks on relevant areas. So I think watch this space, I guess.
Yep, and Praminda is here today, I know, and she's leading Emergence, which is tackling frailty and facilitating the emergence of healthcare robots from labs into service. And there's an obvious overlap, for example, within TIDAL and Emergence. So we'll be working closely with Praminda in anything, things that might come to us that we think are better suited to her network. We'll be passing them on, and we've already had a conversation about how we might do a joint event at some point, to bring the networks together, which hopefully will be beneficial to all. So yeah, as much collaboration as possible. We don't see TIDAL as just one thing. It's just part of a growing ecosystem of assistive technology innovation. So yeah, we'll be collecting as much as we can. Tim's then come back and asked about industry partners. So that the joy of obviously everybody wants to make sure that any R&D is exploited, and for that they'd like companies to be involved from the beginning. We've got a wonderful model for that in AT with the grid model that came out of IIT, where are we? Over in Chennai. And so yes, but there's always this thing where companies want to wait and see where a new technology project is going, which is the age-old dilemma. So what level of commitment are we needing and wanting from commercial or industrial project partners at this stage? Aaron, you've unmuted, so I'm going to come to you.
Oh, no, of course. Thanks, Kathy. What commitment? Because we are strongly thinking about co-creation, and if we include industry from that point, from the starting point, they have to commit. So starting early with industry, getting them involved, then I don't think there is any issue of they wait and see because they are fully committed.
Exactly, and I think we're just looking for genuine collaboration. So I think when you enter into that genuine collaboration, hopefully you can begin to have those difficult conversations, Tim, but have them from an early stage.
Can I just chip in? Yeah, just to say, I think certainly in some of the assistive technologies areas, that it's interesting to note that a lot of products, new products that come out, appear to emerge from in-house development within the company. And I think we're aware of some of the challenges of communication between assistive technologies industries and academia. So we are going to support placements, trying to sort of support placements in both directions. So academics spending time with relevant industry partners and hopefully relevant industry partners spending some time with academic partners. And I think this is hopefully an opportunity to sort of build understanding of where each of the two different camps are coming from, and so that in future we can work together better at the early stages.
Thanks, Lars. And thanks, Arian. Yep, Miko, go.
Unmute, success again. I was just going to comment. I mean, Argan has in many cases referred to co-creation, and it is all about interaction and letting some of these ideas emerge from that interaction that can actually have really novel perspectives. So it is a little bit a thing of throwing yourself into an interaction and also see what comes out of it, because you cannot always predict fully what comes out of a co-creation exercise, because you are creating solutions as you go along, and that I think is very much in the exploratory nature of the interaction. But I think some of the best ideas and best things do come out from just the fact that people get together and start doing things together, and I think that's really precious, and that's one of the key things that we would like to support.
I agree fully with you there, Miko. It is quite important that we see a lot of questions. Do you fund this development? Do you fund? We are there. Can you help us out? I think it is very important for this network that we are trying to see, can we go back down to the problem? Because if we understand the problem, then we can find a solution for it. And in my life, I often see that a perceived problem is not a problem for everybody. So the users might perceive a problem, but it's not an issue for the, let's say, the other side, the engineering and the clinicians. And I think what we're trying with this network to see, okay, what are now the problems from the end users, because that's the target group we are aiming at on a global level. How can we then cater with their problems? Is that a real problem or is it a perception? And how can we as a group then find a solution to the problem, rather than jumping in and say, okay, can you fund wheelchairs because you want to electrify? It might be a good project, I'm not saying not, but I think this network is building on the co-development, get to the bottom, get to the grassroots level, and then develop.
I think this is a wonderful way to sum up. I've just looked at the other questions that are there, and some of them are quite technical, and I will make sure that they get answered fully in a Q&A, an FAQ that goes onto the website, so you know what can be funded and what can't be funded through this network. I'd like to just take a moment to thank everybody. I know that Wendy and Richard had prior engagements and weren't able to stay the full course. And I'm very sorry that Paul tried to join, but was unable to join, but we will get his video out to you soon. I would just ask you to make sure that you join us formally after this. If you'd like to hear more, go to the website, to the Join Us link, which is in the chat, and sign up for our newsletter. Then you'll get to hear about the funding opportunities, but it's also a two-way street. We're really, Claire's here to listen and to bring all of your ideas to us, and we will reach out and work with as many ideas as comes in. We're very willing to have a variety of types of collaborations. So whether it's with industry partners, whether it's with other academics, or whether it's with international partners. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for taking your lunch break to spend it with us. You should now see in the chat the link for the newsletter and also more details generally on the TIDAL Network Plus. We're very excited. It's a great team so far, and we're hoping that you guys join us and we get to do great things together. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.